Miami.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Lights Out F1 podcast. I'm Matt Summons. I'm joined by Joshua Fletcher and Callum McAvoy. No Callum Owen this week. He is not feeling very well, so send our best wishes to him, and hopefully he'll be back after this weekend's action in Miami before wherever the next race is. Again, I didn't look that up last week, and I've not looked it up again this week, so Joshua will have to tell me again at the end. But yeah, Joshua and Callum McAvoy both with me. We're going to be looking back at Imola that we had, two weekends ago now. A wet weekend in Imola as well, a sprint weekend, so a fair bit to talk about there. We've got some news finally to talk about in the news section this week. A couple of things to discuss there, and then we're going to look ahead to Miami, which is where we are going to be this weekend. And that was a really bad American accent, and I'm not going to sing the song, but I'm probably going to go and listen to it on repeat straight after this podcast because it's not a bad song. I think you're both nodding along there.
We'll have a remix to it, so not the original footage, the copyrighted one, just underlaid in the whole episode.
Yes, that's going to happen. Maybe the three of us can sing it in unison at the end of the podcast.
No, I only know that one. It's not happening.
Anyway, enough of all that crap. We'll come on to Miami a little bit later on. But first of all, let's talk about Imola. We'll go straight in with our predictions. That's usually a good topic for discussion. For qualifying, obviously we had qualifying and then the sprint race and then the real Grand Prix, the race. I don't know why I'm phrasing it like that. But anyway, for qualifying, Max Verstappen was fastest on Friday afternoon. Callum O, we won't come to him because he's not here. Joshua, we'll come to you because you predicted that along with Callum O. You must be delighted.
Yeah, gets me some points in our league table. We're sort of as a personal, I wouldn't have had him as my number one pick to qualify on pole, but I deserved. I think he could put in a very good performance, and that battle just looks better and better every weekend. I think Ferrari might be struggling now. Bold prediction. I'm not sure if they can keep up as to the high level they have done in the first few races. Potentially struggling a bit, it looked like, but yeah, I mean, deserve a pole, but I thought they both looked very good.
And Callum M, it was a qualifying session that started wet, went dry, and then I think went wet again, if I remember rightly. I think Q3 was on the intermediates. Were you kind of, in that case, not really surprised to see Max on pole, even though you predicted Leclerc?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I did say, I think, in the predictions that the rain can change everything. Max has proven time again to be a very good wet weather driver. So, yeah, not surprising at all. But, yeah, it was an absolute crazy session. I think it overran by 40 minutes or something. We had 5 red flags because just no one could keep it on the track. But, if I'd known there'd been rain, I probably would have put my money on Max. But there you go.
And we obviously never hope for red flags in motorsport, but I remember on that particular Friday, I had a news day which finished at about literally dead on 4:00. So to get back in, turn it on and see it as a red flag because was it Nicholas Latifi or Alex Albon? I can't quite remember which Williams, but their brakes were on fire. And I was quite glad to see the red flag come out and be able to watch qualifying. I didn't expect to be watching it for another hour and a half after that red flag because we had numerous crashes that were probably caused because of the treacherous weather. In terms of the sprint, we'll move on to that fairly quickly. We all had a howler. All 4 of us predicted Charles Leclerc to win that, and Max Verstappen won it. Joshua, what did you make of the first sprint of the 2022 season?
Again, we had a good battle. Again, it's not for everyone, is it? Again, I thought we've made our feelings clear. I'm not sure it's the way I'd go personally, but it seems like they're sticking to it. We're going to have more next season, and it probably wasn't the track to do it with, let alone start the first one of the season with. But I mean, it was the best I think it could have been. So we'll have to wait and see. But it was okay. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't as high drama as some of them have been.
Callum, we did see some fairly good battles during the sprint, and particularly Verstappen versus Leclerc. Obviously, Verstappen overtook Leclerc on the penultimate lap to win the sprint race after he obviously, had a terrible start, which Crofty, I remember saying in commentary, and I watched the highlights back just before we came on, that's the first ever overtake we've had for the lead in a sprint. Surely that's a good thing, and we might get some better sprints this year with these new cars.
I mean, it is, but it's also kind of not when it doesn't reflect on the sprint as a whole, really, does it? No, I mean, I thought, to be honest, the sprint was a lot more entertaining than the race, surprisingly enough. But yeah, it was a weird circuit to do it on, not the best for overtaking. But with the DRS, it actually did help a bit. But yeah, once again, great to see Leclerc and Max going for it. It's what we're paying to see, basically. This is what we wanted. So we got it, not in the race, unfortunately, but the sprint will do.
And Joshua, there's just one kind of incident to talk about in the sprint. We saw Guan Yu Zhou and Pierre Gasly come together on I think it was the opening lap, or it was certainly one of the earlier laps in the race. Zhou, I guess, kind of left Gasly with nowhere to go, and Gasly hit him. Is that a fair reflection of what happened, would you say, Joshua?
Yeah, that's the way I interpreted it. Of sort of watching it before I think it was the day before I came back up to uni, so it wasn't full focus on it. But yeah, it to me it seemed as if it was Zhou's fault, and he just didn't leave enough room, and Gasly had nowhere to go, unfortunately. But it's racing. I don't think anything serious or significant came from it, or penalty wise. So not what you want to see, but it wasn't anything atrocious, and we've seen far worse crashes at Imola.
And moving on to the Grand Prix itself on Sunday, I think Sky's coverage was quite funny in the build-up. I remember Ted Kravitz doing a feature on Ferrari, which was rather funny. He flew over on Ryanair, other airlines are available, and then he just jumped into this really expensive Ferrari. I found that quite funny. And also remember, I don't know if you saw this, Callum M, but he was speaking to a Ferrari fan who was English, and he said, my blood's red, I'm a massive Ferrari fan, blah 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 blah. And Ted went, but you're from Leighton Buzzard. Did you see that?
I didn't, but I just loved the line of, "Oh, my blood is red." I should hope so.
Yeah.
But speaking of Sky Sports, Josh, is it me? But does Matt look a little bit like Sky Sports' own Paul di Resta?
Yeah, I think so. I think we pulled that up. Sort of. There was I don't know what it was. I think there was one. I think I saw a picture on Twitter. I was like, "There's some sort of resemblance," and we had a bit of a joke with Matt in our group chat about that. But let us know what you think. We put out something on Twitter. I don't know how many responses it got from people not associated with this podcast, but no, I do think there's a bit of a similarity. Just a tiny bit.
The problem was I put a comment in the chat about Paul di Resta and how much I didn't like him. I won't say exactly what I said, but and then Joshua or Callum or one of you just came in and was like, "You look a bit like Paul di Resta, Matt." I was like, "Oh no!" So that was just the worst Friday of my life, and hopefully Martin Brundle has gone to Miami this weekend, because I'm not a massive fan of Paul di Resta whatsoever. I'm just every week I'm saying somebody new that I dislike. Last time it was Lance Stroll. Now this week it's Paul di Resta, and to be compared to him, I can see it with the haircut, but everything else, no, not really.
It is the hair. I'm sorry, Matt, it is the hair. That's what it is.
Especially now that I've had it cut today, it looks a bit shorter and more like him. But I'm going, as a last minute thing, I'm going go-karting tomorrow, so hopefully I will drive slightly better than Paul di Resta did in Formula 1. Is that harsh, Callum?
I mean, I would say that's harsh, but he was a good driver. He was a good DTM driver. I'll give it that as well. Very good at that. But anyway,
enough Paul di Resta chat. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, Imola. That shows how bad it was that we were talking. Callum, I will come straight back to you. It wasn't the most entertaining race of all time, was it?
No, and I don't understand how it wasn't. Like, it mixed conditions, the threat of rain in the air, and after the great sprint we had previous day, you're thinking, oh yeah, this is going to be great, and then it just kind of wasn't. And I guess part of it was because the sprint, unfortunately, because you had Perez and Sainz especially, who I think started like 10th and 11th, in the sprint, but because they had the sprint, they therefore started the main race third and fourth or whatever it was. So it was like, oh, so that kind of exciting element from the race was taken out. And I think, to be honest, everyone just wants to be really cautious, especially after seeing what happened with Sainz and Ricciardo at the start. So, yeah, it wasn't great. And, it's not an overtaking track, as Lewis Hamilton found, getting stuck behind Gasly and Albon for pretty much the entire race. So, I like Imola a lot as a circuit, but, not the greatest showcase for it.
And Joshua, Callum mentioned it there, probably any real meaningful action we saw in the race was that collision between Ricciardo and Sainz at the start. Who was at fault there for you?
I think as much as we would like him, I think Ricciardo was at fault for that. It was tricky. It was a tight one, but he did tag him. I think I don't know if something happened ahead of him that some distraction, and he tagged him, or didn't Schumacher? There was something with Schumacher after that as well. He had damage after that, so it was the biggest moment in the race, presumably. But no, I think Danny Rick fought for that one, and he went and apologised, although he told Trevor Noah that he hated it. But he did the big thing, and he took responsibility for that. So I think that says all it needs to say about that one.
Well, speaking of McLaren and Daniel Ricciardo, let's talk about his teammate Lando Norris, who ended up finishing third in the race, probably through a little bit of luck, that's fair to say, but some strong results from McLaren in the last two races. Callum, are McLaren back? Do you think we can say that yet?
I mean, strictly speaking, they never left. I think all it was Bahrain and Saudi Arabia in the hot conditions just really didn't suit the car. And I know it's kind of people joke like, what do you mean it can't deal with hot conditions? This is a thing we've seen for many years. There's a whole thing that even Mercedes during their dominance really hated. Was it cold conditions? They either hated it. They either hated the cold or they hated the hot, whatever it was. So this is a thing that happens. And Australia and Imola, cooler conditions, they suit the car more. And there is obviously a good car in there. It just needs the right conditions and, as you say, a nice slice of luck, and they can be on the podium. And obviously, if Ricciardo hadn't have hit Sainz at the start, who knows what could have happened? He could have been up in there as well. So, yeah, I don't know how that's going to affect them going into Miami, but promising signs for them.
I think if we had a Team Radio of the Week feature, we would definitely be having Lando Norris's Team Radio, where he was told that there was going to be class 0 to 1 rain. I mean, what the hell was that all about?
It's all strategy, isn't it? I'm trying to think of an explanation for it, but I think it's far too complex for us to understand, and they're tricking everyone else at the same time because all the teams and drivers can hear each other's radios. I don't know. It might have been even just a tactic to say, no, whatever rainfall's coming, then I don't know. I'm not even making sense.
Rain is rain, isn't it? It's either light or heavy or drizzle or hail. There's kind of no in between. It's just rain. That was quite amusing. Do you want to say something, Callum?
And so what's the old expression in the UK? There's like 100 different names for rain. So I'm not quite sure if I agree with you there, Matt. But yes, no. I take your point completely.
And the most disappointing moment of the race was for Charles Leclerc, who crashed at, I'm not even going to try and say the corner name, I've got it written down, but my Italian isn't very good. Variante Alta, is that right? Is that how you say it?
That was very good.
That was very good. Yeah, that sounded right. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to say it again. Charles Leclerc crashed at Variante Alta, which pretty much put him out of the race. And Joshua, I think we have to say, he was very lucky to manage to get away from it, and that he didn't hit the wall harder.
Yeah, I mean, very lucky, but ultimately it cost him quite significantly, and he looked comfortable for a while. We're sort of just cruising along, and we've seen that quite a few times with him now, that he looks to be doing well, and I don't know what he just went over the curb funny, and it's just spun him round. But I think that will improve, and that will sort of fall out of his driving when he gets. I know he's been in the sport for a while, but he gets older, gets that more experience. Challenging for a title will probably help him sort of reduce those mistakes. He's still a young driver, but we've seen a few of those now that he just tiny errors that ultimately might cost him and could prove costly in this championship.
Alan, we saw it last year with Max and Lewis that, if you like, neither of them blinked in towards, especially right at the end of the season. Do you think that Charles Leclerc has what it takes to win a world championship? Do you think these mistakes are going to go away?
I mean, he is definitely quick enough. It is all about that consistency now, and it's been a thing. We've seen it before. When he crashed in qualifying in Baku, it was like, oh, I'm so stupid, all that kind of stuff. So you've got to remember, this is his first time where he is going to be consistently challenging for wins, and therefore the championship. So there will be mistakes. He just has to iron them out as quickly as possible and hope that Max makes a few of his own, which so far he has. He's not finished first two of the first 4 races. So he's just got to hope that that kind of perfect storm continues. His lead in the championship is still like, 30 odd points. So like, even if he can afford to crash this weekend and Max wins, and he'll still be leading the championship. So he's got that buffer. He just needs to maintain it.
Like you said, now is probably the best time to make those mistakes. Obviously, earlier years are an even better time. But if Mercedes start coming back, I mean, there's no way Mercedes could possibly challenge for the championship now. I mean, clip that and play it back to me at the end of the year when they somehow win the constructors. But while Mercedes aren't around as well, now is a good time for him to go for it and try and win that championship, because Mercedes will pounce on mistakes when they come back, and I'm sure Red Bull will as well. So in terms of our predictions for the race, it obviously finished top 3 was Max, Perez and Norris. Callum, you said that Max was going to win the race, so you got a point for that one. I don't think anybody else got anything else right. Callum O also said Max was going to win the race, but just looking down here, nobody else got anything right in terms of second or third. So yeah, that's pretty much everything in terms of Imola. In terms of our wildcard predictions, I'm going to have to get your two's opinion on this, because I said there'd be a Mercedes collision, and this was on track. That didn't happen because the Mercedes were nowhere near each other on track. But Joshua, I'll come to you. We saw that Toto Wolff and Lewis Hamilton having a little bit of a, confrontation at the back of the garage. Can I have a point for that as a Mercedes collision?
I think if you're going to have any points, it's got to be a half. But I think that's very generous that's a reach to claim that as a Mercedes collision.
Callum?
The phrase "scraping the bottom of the barrel" comes to mind. But it was a moment though. Like, I remember, apparently it was, they didn't actually really have words. It just looked like they were having a proper argument. Yes. No point for you, Matt.
Okay. That's fine. Fair enough. I was expecting that, and therefore haven't applied it to the table. Callum O predicted that Schumacher would score points. That didn't happen. He finished 17th. Callum M, you said Pierre Gasly would get in the top 5. He was 12th, so that one didn't come through for you. Joshua, you predicted.
Can I just say, before we move on, can I just say something? I nearly put Aston Martin to score points, and then you lot talked me out of it, and then they bloody well did score points. I was fuming on Sunday, absolutely.
Well, you said to me about my Alpine prediction at the start of the season: be your own man. Practice what you preach, my friend.
Yeah. Oh, I will.
So yeah, Joshua, you predicted that Max and Leclerc would have a crash, and that didn't happen. Bit optimistic, that one, but you never know with those two. In terms of the table, Joshua, you still lead it somehow. You've got 6 points, but myself and both Callums are all tied on 5. I didn't score any points this weekend. The 2 Callums have caught up a bit. I mean, I would be level with Josh at the top if I had that Mercedes point, but so it's very, very tight at the moment. 1 point separating the 4 of us. So these predictions are very important. We've not got Callum O's yet for Miami, and we'll talk about ours in a little while. Let's move on to a little bit of news now. And it was announced on Monday, I think, which is yesterday as we're recording this, that Audi and Porsche are going to be coming into Formula One in some way, shape or form. Callum M, what can you tell us that you know about that, and how good is that or bad for the sport?
Well, Matt, as it happens, that's what I was writing about today. I did very well. Yes, so the plan is they've wanted to be involved in F1 for some time. The plan is they will enter in 2026, which seems like a long time off. But the reason they're doing that is because we're having a big engine rule change, which was recently approved. So basically, we'll have more like electric parts in the engine, all this environmental stuff, all good. But they're not going to be their own team. Porsche is their plan is they want to partner with Red Bull and provide them with power units, so it will become Red Bull Porsche. Audi have got a very ambitious plan. They want to buy out a current team. They are looking at potentially McLaren, Williams, Aston Martin, or Alfa Romeo. So they want to buy either part or all of it and make it the Audi team. They don't want to start their own one like Haas did a few years back. Is this good for the sport? I mean, it's great to see more people wanting to get involved in F1 because I think the last time there was this kind of big interest in it, didn't go very well. We had if you guys remember, Caterham and Marussia and the Spaniard racing team. Not sure if this is before you guys started following F1, but that didn't go very well. But I think because of what Haas have done since they joined in 2016, plus because F1 is so lucrative now because of the wider audience it's got. And that was one of the things that the head of VW, who own Audi and Porsche, said. Part of the reason they've been convinced to do it is because they've been convinced that it will make more money than lose it, not really a great sporting reason to get into F1, but there you go. That's the way the world works. So, exciting times. Obviously, a few years off still. Very curious to see how Audi go about trying to buy McLaren. Since I think Zach Brown actually said, we're not for sale. So, curious to see how that goes. But interesting.
I mean, it'd be weird for me if they do come in, especially if they're branded on teams, because I've always, known Audi and Porsche as, WEC teams. I've never seen them in F1 before. When I've watched it, I don't know if they have been in before previously. But I've always seen them as WEC teams. So a good thing for the sport. Joshua, what are your thoughts on Audi and Porsche?
Yeah, it's good to have two proper race, not racing teams, but sort of brands in that area.
Car manufacturers,
reputable motoring companies coming in. I mean, it would be disappointing if they did buy out a McLaren or an Aston Martin. I did hear Lawrence Stroll might be interested in selling, but I don't know how much truth there is to that. But to lose Aston to another sort of similar sort of car manufacturer name would be disappointing. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see it be. But initially, I hoped we'd have more teams. But as Callum has rightly pointed out, it doesn't sound as if that's the route either of them are interested in taking. But maybe it will spruce up the Red Bull livery. We've not had any difference in that livery for about 10 years, it feels like. So maybe they'll have a bit of a colour scheme change or something if that happens. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Let's not get into livery chat. That will double the time we're sat here. But certainly exciting times ahead if the two of them do enter the sport and that kind of goes through. The other news that was announced is that Sky Sports have got the rights now to the W Series for this season. I think they're going. I don't think we'll be seeing any practice sessions from them, but we'll be seeing qualifying. And I think they have 2 races across the weekend. I'm not 100% sure on that. I think that's how it works. The only time I've ever seen the W Series was when I was at Silverstone last year. Good racing, great chance for female drivers to progress up the ranks as well and get themselves seen, as we all know. Callum M, have you seen much of the W Series? Is this deal gonna make you want to watch it?
I watched it live at Brands Hatch a few years ago, I think during its first season. It wasn't very entertaining. Interesting as well because it's all identical cars as well. So it really is just down to driver ability, which I think is a pretty cool thing. I'll be honest, I haven't watched much of it apart from that, but I'm also someone I'm a big motorsport fan, but I don't actively seek to watch other stuff apart from F1 and maybe the British touring cars. But if it's on, I'll definitely watch it 100%.
I think I probably agree with pretty much everything you've said there. F1, 2 and 3 are kind of and the WEC are kind of as far as I'll go most of the time, and usually if there's something else that's on and I see it, I'll go, oh yeah, stick that on for a bit. Joshua, what about you? What are your thoughts on the W Series? I just think for me, I think the best thing about it is the fact that Sky Sports have got it. Obviously, that makes it less accessible than when Channel 4 had it last year. But a lot more people, I think, as weird as that sounds, I think a lot more people would watch the W Series on Sky Sports than they would on Channel 4, maybe.
Yeah, I think it sort of fits with them keeping their formula stuff together. I know Channel 4 also had highlights rights and stuff like that.
Yeah, I
But
don't think they showed anything live, did they?
I don't think so. I think they've got the British Grand Prix again, but I don't think they can show anything live.
Yeah.
So it's good for fans of motorsport and stuff like that you've got everything in that one bracket. I'm aware of a couple of people involved in it. A couple of names. I think Caitlin Jenner's got her own team, and Jamie Chadwick's the next big thing. But apart from that, I'm not too clued up. But I'm sure, as you said, if it's on, I'll stick it on. I'll learn more about it. But it's good, and it's good for Sky that they're showing an active interest in promoting women's sport. WSL, they've got the broadcast rights the first time for this season, so they're really doing their bit to showcase this, and it can only be a good thing.
Yeah, but the two of you, I've never seen it before, or Silverstone last year was the only time I'd seen it. And I think, yeah, if it's on, I'm definitely gonna stick it on as part of the race weekend. And if you want to watch it, you can watch it this weekend. It will be on Sky F1. I've no idea what the times are, but I know that obviously I think it is their first round of the season in Miami this weekend, along with the F1 guys. No F2 or F3, I don't think, this weekend. So that's your replacement in terms of support races. The only other bit of news that I found quite funny was the fact that Lewis Hamilton won a battle about a tree. He apparently had a tree in his garden that his neighbours didn't want cut down, and eventually Lewis Hamilton won, and the tree was cut down. So I thought that was quite amusing and thought I'd just mention that. Anyway, let's move on to talk about Miami, which kind of links in with the end of the news, is the fact that both race directors have tested positive for COVID, but it is more likely that Niels Vitic, I think is how you pronounce it, it's likely that he should test negative in time for this weekend. No more news has been said about that, so keep your eyes peeled to see who's going to be the race director, who I don't think we've had many issues with so far this season, but we've only had four races, so still plenty of time to make errors. Anyway, let's talk about Miami. I'm not going to do an American accent again. Callum, will come down to you. Have you seen an onboard of the track recently? What do you think of this new venue that we've got? Another street track I mentioned at the end of the last pod.
My thoughts about street tracks. Don't like them much, but hey, whatever. The way forward, I guess. I have seen a couple of things about the onboard like simulations that kind of reminds me of Sochi. I hate to say it, but like a better version, I guess. But like aesthetically as well, with the stadium there, which is the whole thing is it's around the Miami Dolphins stadium. It, again, just very reminiscent of Sochi, which was all around the Olympic Park. So it's like I don't know. As for the circuit itself, we won't know until we race on it. I was reading some quotes from a couple of drivers who have done the simulator test this week, and they were saying they're looking forward to it. They say it's going to be very high on overtaking, and there are a lot of like long straights and stuff that should, it should work. And with the cars being the way they are this year, this could be an entertaining race. My worry is that it's going to be a bit too show busy. Like they're going to have a big carnival atmosphere, which is great, but I don't want that to be better than the race itself. The race needs to like match that. It's a bit like, Mexico has this amazing atmosphere.
Yeah.
And everyone goes there. It's incredible. The circuit's rubbish though. So that's the problem. Like the race is never as good as the atmosphere. So yeah, we need if the race can like match what they do off the track, amazing. If not, yeah, I'd be a bit worried.
But we all know what America is like, right? It's always about being big and over the top and, just making it as eccentric as possible. I was watching Sky Sports News today. How on the right-hand side they advertise what's on their channels over the next few days. Actually, Thursday, I think it's Thursday, 1 o'clock in the morning, or Friday, 1 o'clock in the morning. Thursday, can't remember. But it said Miami Grand Prix opening ceremony, which kind of makes me think, oh, no, what's this all about?
Have you seen the list of people who are performing at this?
No.
Have you seen this, Callum?
I haven't. No.
I saw. Let me find it. I saw it the other day, and I was like, and people like it was like F1s were saying they were more excited for that for this concept thing than they were for the race.
No,
but they've got some big names.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Because it's not the Olympics. It's a Formula One race as part of a Formula One World Championship. I just found that I was quite like, why do we need an opening ceremony for an hour and a half of sport? Essentially, in terms of if you're talking about the race, because that's what most people are interested in. If you're honest, have you found the list, Josh?
I mean,
I might have seen it on TikTok. Let me see if I can find it. If not, I'll send it in our group chat later, and we'll put it out on our socials. But you keep talking, and I'll see if I can find it.
Go on, Callum. You're about to come in.
I was going to say, I don't mind the stuff they do before the race, like when they have the big flyovers and stuff. That's always awesome. I love that at any bit. But as you say, opening ceremony before the first practice session? Okay. Way to hype up practice, I guess. But
the Chainsmokers are on there, and Kygo, and lots of DJs and lots of big American.
I think it's also on the Thursday as well. I think it is on the Thursday in terms of when it's on there. So because obviously at Silverstone, I know you can go on the Thursday and like watch the F1 show and all that kind of stuff happen. So maybe they're kind of doing it like that. There's obviously no dramatic, opening ceremony. But yeah, it just seems strange. I'm just trying to find something about it, but can't really see much through paragraphs and paragraphs of writing. But before before people turn off, we'll move on from the opening ceremony. But it's on at 1 a.m. either Thursday or Friday. I can't remember. So if you want to watch it, go and watch it. What I've got written down about the track is new track, long straights with kinks and chicanes. And if there's one twisty section towards the end of the lap, which looks fairly interesting. But I guess we're just going to have to see, like Callum said, where the overtaking spots are going to be. I've thought of maybe 2 in my head, 3 if you include the pit lane. Turn 1 is an obvious one. I don't know the number of the other turn. I think it's at the end of one of the long straights, but that doesn't help because there's loads of long straights. And then the pit lane is obviously the other one, but that's an overtaking place at every track, as we know. I've also got written fake marina. I don't know if any of you saw this with Craig Slater trying to do backstroke on his fake water. Oh dear.
No, I'm surprised in a sense it wasn't Ted Kravitz doing that, but it is slightly. Go on.
Ted will be there. I guarantee you now. Ted
will
be there.
It's slightly embarrassing that they've had to fake a marina, and it's obviously everything open to the public, so everyone can see it. And you've hit rock bottom when you've got sort of TV anchors taking the absolute mick out of you for painting a bit of wood with fake water and fake ripples. And
I'm seeing lots of Daniel Ricciardo in Monaco memes as well. Him jumping into this fake swimming pool with his arms stretched out. We all know the picture. Everyone listening knows it as well. It's fantastic. So we'll have to enjoy that throughout the weekend. But let's talk about what's going to happen on the track at last. And probably maybe a bit of a concern that all we've talked about so far is off-track opening ceremonies and fake marinas. Which comes back to your show busy point, Callum. But anyway, we'll get on to our predictions. Joshua, we'll come up to you. Who's going to take pole position in Miami?
Max Verstappen will take pole in Miami.
Oh, no.
We're all catching. No, I don't know. We'll go for Max again. I think he'll be brought up on that momentum of winning at the weekend, and I don't know. I don't know. It sort of feels like the momentum might be swinging back that way if they can get some proper, consecutive, consistent points finishes and get that car back in a reliable state. And I think, as I said earlier, I think the Ferrari might be dropping off a little bit in comparison. So if they can get him firing, I think he'll have a good run of consistent wins and high scoring points. So I'll go for Max on pole on this occasion.
I've agreed with you. I've gone with Max as well. Callum M, are you going to make it a clean sweep?
I would have tried the American. I got a sore throat, so I won't. Max on pole.
Cool. And in terms of the race, in terms of the top 3, Callum, I'll come straight back down to you.
So I've gone with Max Verstappen. That's an awful accent. I do apologise. is going to win the race. I think, as you said, the Red Bull favours these kind of circuits. I think Charles Leclerc second and Sergio Perez third for me.
I've gone with a bit of a different top three, which links into my wild prediction. Callum, you remember the other week when I completely messed up and said that Carlos Sainz had got his first ever pole, and it was actually Sergio Perez. Well, I'm going to go one further this time. I'm going to say that Carlos Sainz is going to win at the weekend, Verstappen second and Leclerc third, which is also going to be my wild prediction in terms of the Sainz winning. Joshua, what about your race top three?
So you said, like, I had my predictions written down, and then you read the predictions table, and I was like, right, I've got to play it a bit safer here. So originally I had Charles, Max, Lando. I've actually gone for Charles, Max, Sainz, just because I think it's a bit ambitious to put that McLaren up there. So we'll go with Charles, Max, Sainz, and I will kick myself if Lando gets third. But I'm playing it safe to get some success this season again.
Okay, fair enough. Wild predictions, I've already mentioned mine. It's that Carlos Sainz is going to win because I think just after a terrible couple of races, I think this is going to be his weekend. He's going to bounce back and he's going to absolutely love it when he wins. Joshua, let's go straight back up to you in terms of your wild prediction for Sunday afternoon or anything over the weekend. It could even be to do with the opening ceremony if you wanted to.
So again, I've been very boring. So originally I had written down Lewis Hamilton finishes top 5. I thought it was a bit ambitious, so I've said Hamilton will outscore George Russell. And I think I saw a picture today of the breakdown of each team and the drivers have scored points. And I think Russell's got 64 to 36% or something like that. I don't like he scored 64% of Mercedes points this season. So let's flip the script and say Hamilton will outscore his teammate, which I didn't think a year ago I'd be saying would be a wild prediction.
No, that's very true. I think me and Callum will join you in that view. Callum, let's come to you. Have you got anything wild for us?
Yes, I certainly do.
That smile says a lot.
So originally I was thinking that during the race there will be at least 5 references to the Will Smith song Miami. However, given that Will Smith is a bit of a hot topic right now, given all the stuff with the Oscars, because I've actually gone that 5 times during the race, or minimum 5 times during the race, the camera will cut to the fake harbour / marina, and there will be a comment on it somehow.
We need to establish what this counts as, because does it count? Because surely in the F1 opening titles, when they're doing here are the tyres, here's the track, surely they're going does that count?
I will say from lights out to the checkered flag, because they'll show it during the warm-up lap. That's a guarantee, I think. Yeah. So yes, from lights out to the checkered flag, we will cut to the marina 5 times.
And let's just check you are not the F1 TV director or producer this weekend.
Oh rats, he's worked out my plan. Damn it.
I think you'd probably be in Miami if you were as well, or over at the TV centre by now, probably. So, I think we can safely say that you won't be there. Cool. Thank you to the two of you for joining me. Another good F1 chat. Well, kind of mostly F1 chat. Thank you to the two of you for joining me. We'll get Callum Owen's predictions as well and stick them out on Twitter with the rest of ours that you can see those. Joshua, what is the next race?
The next race, we have a double header. So we go to Spain. We go to Spain we have a break, then we go to Spain, and then we are racing in Monaco.
Oh, another street track! Yay!
So, it is. We have the USA on the 6th to the 8th, then we have a break. We're in Spain from the 20th to the 22nd, then in Monaco from the 27th to the 29th, and then another break, and then we're jetting all around the world, but Spain and Monaco double header.
What's after Monaco?
Azerbaijan on the 12th of June. Then a week later, we're in Canada, and then we have another break.
Yep. Cool. So our next recording will be after the Canadian Grand Prix. Thanks for listening, everyone. Goodbye.
See you later.
Yeah.
I'm going to Miami. Yo, I heard the rainstorms ain't nothing to mess with, but I